Welcome to the Sudoku Masterclass. In this first lesson, we're going to talk about the Sudoku Grid. The Sudoku puzzle is a 9x9 grid of little boxes called cells. So see the little thing highlighted here? We call that, in the Sudoku universe, we call that a cell. Each cell will need to be filled in with its correct number in order to successfully complete the puzzle. This is an easy puzzle, or one that's pretty much on its way. Because the grid is 9x9, so there's 9 cells on each, the horizontal and the vertical. You multiply those together, which means there are 81 cells in total on a Sudoku grid. So each square is called a cell in the grid. And in the most common Sudokus, you'll see that each of them contains either a 1 through a 9. But sometimes, and Sudokus can get a little crazy, you'll see pictures, icons, or in this case, you see Japanese symbols. But most commonly, you'll just play the numbered Sudokus. When we're talking online or discussing in videos or talking to other Sudoku solvers, to describe where the numbers should go on the grid, we use specific Sudoku terminology. So on the grid, we've already talked about what a cell is, and that's the little box, but there's also rows, columns, and blocks. And sometimes you'll hear people describing where a number goes in its house, and that usually refers to, we'll talk about more what this means later, but that refers to where the number goes in the section that you're talking about. So if you're talking about a row here, when you say where does the number go in its house, each of these squares, these open squares here, is potentially a house for that number. If you're talking about the block, each of these open squares would be its house, and if you're talking about the column, each of these open squares would be its house as well. So to further talk about that, a row is a group of 9 cells laid out horizontally on the Sudoku grid. As you can see, I've highlighted what we call a row. A column is a group of 9 cells laid out vertically on a Sudoku grid. And here I've highlighted what we call a column. And a block is a group of 9 cells laid out in a mini 3x3 grid. And as you can see, it is highlighted what we call a block. There are a total of 9 rows, 9 columns, and 9 blocks in each Sudoku puzzle. All right, it's quiz time. Question number 1. What do you call a group of 9 cells laid out horizontally across the Sudoku grid? Is it A, a row, or B, across? So the answer is A. It's called a row. Question 2. What do you call a group of 9 cells laid out vertically across the Sudoku grid? Is it A, running down, or B, column? So the answer is B, column. Question number 3. What do you call a mini 3x3 grid within the 9x9 grid? Is it A, called a square, or B, called a block? And the answer is B. It's called a block. And last question. How many cells are in a normal Sudoku puzzle? Is it A, 90, or B, 81? And the answer is B, 81. There are 9x9. So 9 times 9 equals 81 cells. So that's a quick overview of the Sudoku grid and the terminology we use to describe places on the grid. So we'll investigate that a bit further in the next video.